Today, we're going to talk about a chain of events, a series of dominoes that, once they started to fall, led to something catastrophic, the violent partition of British India. It all started with a single day of protest, known as Direct Action Day.
And that's really the big question we're digging into here, isn't it? How could one single day, one protest, completely shatter a subcontinent? It's a story about high-stakes politics, deep-seated anger, and a massive failure of the system that ended up redrawing the map of South Asia forever.
Okay, so what was Direct Action Day? Well, on August 16, 1946, the Muslim League called for a nationwide protest. Now, this wasn't about sitting down for a chat or finding a middle ground. This was a show of force, a huge demonstration meant to prove that the demand for a separate nation, for Pakistan, was absolute.
To really get how this one day just completely blew up, we need to look at what was going on behind the scenes. What was the political game being played?
You have to picture the India of the 1940s. It was like a pressure cooker. The political and communal divides were incredibly sharp, and right into this supercharged environment, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League, announces his plan for what he called direct action. This move was really a political strategy with a few key goals. First and foremost, of course, was to hammer home the demand for Pakistan. But it was also a way to directly challenge the Indian National Congress and flat-out reject their whole vision of a united India. And the way they decided to do this? A general strike, meant to bring the country to a standstill and show everyone just how serious they were.
That call to action, well, it had consequences. Immediate. Horrific. And the ground zero, the epicenter of this explosion, was the city of Calcutta.
In Calcutta, that call for a general strike was like throwing a lit match into a room full of gasoline. The protest, which was supposed to be a strike, just completely devolved. On August 16th, the city just erupted into some of the worst communal violence in its history. It was a complete vortex of killing and destruction.
The human cost was just staggering. In Calcutta alone, over 5,000 people were killed. Just let that number sink in for a moment. This wasn't some abstract political argument anymore. This was a human tragedy on a scale that's hard to even imagine.
And the horror didn't just stop in Calcutta. Nope. Thousands more were injured. Homes, shops, all destroyed. Entire communities were forced to pack up and run for their lives. The violence spread like a wildfire to other places. Bombay, Noakhali, Bihar. And all of this chaos exposed a really scary truth. The British administration had lost control. They couldn't keep law and order anymore.
So, faced with this total breakdown, the British tried to force a political solution. But, this attempt to create some kind of unity only ended up showing everyone just how deep the cracks really were.
So, trying to get a handle on things, the Viceroy, Lord Wavell, scrambled to put together a transitional government. He invited Jawaharlal Nehru of the Congress Party to lead it, and they took office in September 1946. The hope, I guess, was to build some kind of bridge between the two sides.
But it was a partnership that was just never going to work. I mean, you had the Congress Party, who joined to try and build a stable, unified India. And then you had the Muslim League, who eventually joined in October, but with a totally different playbook. They didn't cooperate. They obstructed. They used their seats in the government to push even harder for Pakistan, even boycotting meetings.
There's a quote that just sums it up perfectly. Instead of acting as a bridge, the interim government became a battleground. The very thing that was supposed to heal the divide became the main stage for the fight. The government was basically at war with itself, complete and total deadlock.
So, the country is descending into chaos. The government's paralyzed. And back in London, they're looking at this whole mess and they decide, okay, it's time to get out. And they made an announcement that changed everything.
On February 20th, 1947, the British Prime Minister Clement Attlee got up in Parliament and basically started a giant countdown clock. He announced that Britain would be out of India, power fully transferred, no later than June 30th, 1948. The end was officially in sight. Now, this declaration had a few really critical parts. First, that fixed deadline created this incredible sense of urgency. Second, and this is maybe the most important part, he admitted that if a single central government wasn't going to work, then power could be handed over to the different provinces. This, right here, is what put partition on the table as an official, legitimate option. And third, a new viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, was sent in to manage the whole exit.
At this point, you can just see all the dominoes lined up. The violence, the political failure, the British deadline, they were all pointing in one and only one direction.
So let's just trace that path one last time. First domino,
The riots after Direct Action Day create this chasm of violence and mistrust that just couldn't be bridged. Second domino, the spectacular failure of the interim government proves that political unity is a fantasy. Third domino, Attlee's declaration starts the clock and makes partition an official possibility. The path was
Lord Mountbatten's job was basically to push that final domino. He was in charge of the incredibly rushed and chaotic process that ended with the Indian Independence Act of 1947, the piece of paper that legally dissolved the British Raj and created two new countries, India and Pakistan.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really heavy question. When you look back at this whole chain reaction, from that first call for direct action, to the riots, to the political paralysis, was there any other way out? Or did the violence of that one day make the tragedy of partition absolutely inevitable? It's a question we still grapple with today.